Hey, I don't normally do videos like this, but I just wanted to cover this topic because I feel like there's a lot of misinformation floating around. So I'm not going to waste any time. Let's just get right into it. If you don't know who Melanie Martinez and Timothy Heller are, they are two women who one accused the other of sexual assault. And, it's becoming relevant again, even though this happened at the end of 2017. And like I said, there's a lot of misinformation. So I just want to jump in and get the facts straight, and then I'm going to share my opinion. First of all, Melanie Martinez is a singer who got popular in 2015 mainly with her debut album. And, she made a music video for every song. It's a concept album. So that just increased her popularity, and she had really interesting visuals and just a very different approach from a lot of other artists. And that stood out to people. So she blew up. And then, right after she put out the last music video for her debut album, completing it as a visual album, uh, an ex friend of hers, who she parted ways with, like, I don't know, a year or two prior, just came on Twitter with this long post detailing a night between the two of them where she claims that a sexual interaction took place, and Timothy claims to have said no multiple times. And I remember her explicitly stating that. She said no repeatedly, and it happened anyway. She made it sound like Melanie, tricked her into smoking or something, or was trying to groom her in some way. She painted Melanie very much as a predator and, this manipulative person. And she also explicitly referred to her as a rapist. She was like, and then my rapist, So when you put out a statement like that, it is very, very clear that you're basically inciting hatred on the person you're talking about, who you named, and who there is proof that you actually had a connection to. There's pictures of them together. So, when you do something like that, you have to be aware of the implications of what you're saying. You aren't just saying, here's my story, hashtag me too, I hope this helps other girls come forward. You're basically saying this person is a rapist and deserves to be canceled and attacked, and go hate them, is essentially what you're saying when you call someone a rapist in such a way. So she knew what she was doing, and then the only question becomes, was there any dishonesty on her part, or is the story she told 100% true? Does she really believe that Melanie is a rapist, or does she just was she just angry about an incident that took place between the two of them and didn't really think that it meant she was a bad or dangerous person, that it was just a one-time thing and that it really wasn't even as clearly rape as she made it sound? It was more ambiguous than that. Or was it truly that bad and she genuinely believes Melanie is dangerous and people need to be protected from her? I think that's what you need to consider, because in situations where, people come forward and accuse celebrities of sexual assault, what you have to be aware of is that usually these celebrities are genuinely dangerous people, and you hear about this and you think, yeah, I think it's probably for the best. There are probably other people who will come forward and claim that something similar happened to them, and it's always for the best, But then there are some situations where it's a little more morally ambiguous. It wasn't super clear what was happening. And then people will just take advantage of that, take advantage of the fact that something did happen, and make it sound worse than it was, just because they maybe don't know what they're doing. Maybe it comes from a place of naivety or ignorance. Maybe, maybe they're just, they genuinely believe that what happened to them was wrong, or maybe there's an element of spite. Maybe they're just angry with that person and they want to use whatever they have against them. Maybe they're mentally ill. There could be a million explanations, but it's not really your business why someone does it. That's their business. So let's talk about the way Melanie responded to these accusations. She posted something that essentially said, if I can remember, it was like, I'm horrified and saddened by the story and statements by Timothy Heller tonight. We parted ways, and I wish her well, but she never said no to what we chose to do together. Something like that. And her saying she never said no to what we chose to do together is directly contradictory to the statements that she said no multiple times. So right away, there's two different stories floating around. Somebody's being dishonest. or misremembering. But Timothy Heller just recently came out with a new statement where she made it sound like it actually was a little more ambiguous. She made it sound like she didn't actually use the word no, so that's already contradicting her original statement. She made it sound like she only kind of implied no, and Melanie just wasn't picking up on it, which is not good, but both of them were stoned, and they were both teenagers, although I think Melanie is actually the younger one of the two, but that's neither here nor there. So then, she came out again and made another statement talking about, like, fans looking through, Instagram photos and dates and false statements and whatnot. And Timothy mentioned that in her new statement and made it sound like that was just Melanie being ridiculous and like, oh, what does that matter? She already confirmed that something happened for sure, so why does it matter about like dates and stuff like that? Well, the reason that it matters is because there was a picture of her wearing a wig, a Melanie Martinez wig. Now, Melanie Martinez has a very distinct look. She has black hair on one side and colored hair on the other side, and she's always got different wigs and stuff like that, and consistently always one side is black. So, Timothy Heller was wearing a Melanie Martinez wig, and the date that she posted the picture wearing the wig was supposedly the day after this incident took place. So that's why the dates mattered, for anyone who doesn't know that that actually was significant. And then it turned out that there was some, we just have to take Timothy's word for it, because she claims that the photo appeared twice in her camera roll and dates weren't lining up, so she, who knows if that's true. It doesn't matter. The point is that there are actually more than just that one picture. There are a lot of pictures of Timothy Heller, not only dressed like Melanie, but recreating Melanie's Instagram photos. I can think of at least 5 where she is directly recreating Melanie's Instagram photos, and all of these actually take place after the alleged incident. So this was like mid-2015 when this happened, and there are a lot of pictures from after that where Timothy is fully dressed like Melanie and actually recreating Melanie's photos, which is a little weird. More than a little weird. That's like borderline obsessive. And a lot of people don't know about that. I'm surprised. A lot of people do not know those pictures exist. I was obsessed with this when it first came out because I felt very personally invested, because I have a mutual connection to Melanie Martinez. In 2017, Melanie tweeted a link to the website of an intuitive healer that she talks to named Raven, and I contacted this healer, and I still talk to her to this day. We're pretty close, and I really cannot imagine her having, it felt like it had a personal connection to this. And then Raven's name was actually mentioned in one of Timothy's statements. Timothy said that Melanie had tried to refer her to Raven, and she was like, you need to talk to Raven. And so she just was offended by this, but then she mentioned Raven's name. It was so weird. Someone that I know and have met and talked to multiple times mentioned in a news article, just was very, very weird. So I obviously was very passionate about figuring out the truth of the matter in this case. So I literally have the photos of Timothy dressed like Melanie somewhere in my camera roll if I go looking for them. I have a lot of receipts from back then and screenshots and stuff, because a lot of people were covering it at the time. And Timothy, in her new statement, tried to make that sound like that was, ridiculous and obsessive, and, Melanie's fans are so crazy. But there was some legitimate skepticism there, and I think that it wasn't all coming from a place of hate. However, I do not believe that she deserved to get bullied off the internet. I think what she detailed about what she experienced is definitely wrong and messed up, and she did not deserve any of that. However, I think it's unfortunate that she only mentioned it in the context of, again, trying to paint herself as the victim and Melanie as the villain. In reality, she did quite a number on Melanie's career at the time. It picked back up, and her career is, doing better than ever. But, that is traumatic, I don't know anything from Raven. Raven respects Melanie's confidentiality, but she did assure me that things were not as they seemed. It was not as simple as it was being presented in the public eye. So I went ahead and did my own research and came up with theories and stuff. But just to clarify, I don't have like inside information from Raven about what happened between them. So you know, it was, I do know that, you know, Raven confirmed that Melanie wrote the song Piggyback in like a week. And Piggyback was her main statement regarding what happened. She just felt the need to make it into something more personal than just a written statement. So she wrote a little song and basically just details her life experience and how she feels like, you know, um, she just had to let go of some people who were kind of leeching onto her and just, you know, not really friends for the right reasons. They maybe wanted something out of it. And people had some mixed responses to that song, but I think that it was coming from a genuine place of emotion on Melanie's part. I know that's just how she communicates. I don't think that it was meant to be like cowardly. It shouldn't be seen that way. I don't like the way people rip people apart anyway, and that's again why I said I don't think Timothy deserved the reaction she got. People are way too hateful, but there's no denying, as much as Timothy wants to play the victim and as successful as Melanie is, Melanie did experience some of this shit, and it was because of Timothy. And like I said, when she put out that initial statement directly calling her a rapist, she knew the implications. She knew what she was doing, and she knew the effect, she hoped the effect that it would have on Melanie's career. There's no getting around that. And it did do some damage. I mean, I saw people burning Melanie's merchandise. Everyone was calling her a rapist, and you know how seriously people take this stuff. They were making jokes like felony Martinez. You know, it's because people are just so immature. There's no element of taking something seriously when there's controversy like this. Even when it's about a serious subject like rape, people will just be like, felony Martinez, let's burn her merchandise, which is just, it's unethical to burn things in the first place because it's just wasteful. But it's just, all of it is just insanely ridiculous and unethical. But not the point. Those are just my opinions. The point is, Timothy Heller was very, very clear in her original statement about what happened, and now she's being a little more ambiguous about it and trying to hope. I think she's hoping that the distance, the amount of time she's been gone from the internet, is resulting in people forgetting about why there was so much valid skepticism in the first place. So I just want to remind people of the things that, you know, actually matter regarding this incident. So in conclusion, what I think is that it was an incident that took place between two people who were basically teenagers or in their early 20s at the time, and neither of them were sober. If she wants to claim that Melanie, like, you know, coerced her into smoking or whatever, that's, like, still your choice, though. You chose to be friends with her. You clearly were obsessed with her and dressing like her. You can't fully blame her for that. You know she smokes. Like, you knew that when you were friends with her. You know, sometimes it happens. It just, you feel like you have to smoke. We weren't there, though. You know, Timothy even stated they're the only two people who actually know for sure what took place that night. And that is all the more reason to not jump to conclusions. Let it be their business. Let it just be an incident that happened 10 years ago, almost. It was 9 years ago, but almost 10 years ago. And really, in and of itself, just doesn't mean as much as she wants to make it seem like it means. She even said in her original statement that initially she didn't see anything wrong with it, and then she started telling friends about it, and they kind of, you know, made her feel like it was horrible and worse than it was. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe her friends just kind of got in her head and made her think that something happened that was worse than it was. But the reality of it is, in the moment, nobody really felt like anything horrible was happening. It just was sort of happening. And, you know, this also was before Melanie came out as bisexual, so Timothy basically outed her too. But that's, you know, obviously in the case of actual sexual assault, it's understandable to do that. But still, it's just, it's a mess. Timothy, though, is the one who made it public, the one who tried to incite hatred and, you know, a lot of violence against Melanie. She was hoping that it would ruin her career. She was hoping it would ruin her reputation. There's no denying that. What else could you be hoping by directly using the word rapist in reference to her? You know, and there's no denying that if she hadn't made this public, she'd be fine. And she said she sometimes wonders how different her life could have gone if she hadn't come out and made those statements. Yeah, it probably would have gone differently if you hadn't tried to ruin someone's reputation. without a valid reason. And you can say, oh, well, isn't getting raped a valid reason? Like I said, it's more ambiguous than that, and she's even admitted that. And if you really look into it, there's a lot of evidence that there's a lot more at play than just what was described initially. So as much as she tries to paint herself as a victim, you should see her as a victim for getting bullied offline. That's inexcusable. Cancel culture is the problem. People need to realize that the way that we hate people that we don't even know, it's completely parasocial. You don't know these people. It's a one-sided hatred. They don't know you, you don't know them, but you think you know them, and you want to feel morally superior to them, so you go attacking them. To what end? What do you hope happens? At what point do you win? Pretty much when they're dead. You know, that's really all it is. There's no winning, because these people who get canceled, they are met with so much hate with no clear goal in mind, and they're like, well, it's not cancel culture, it's consequences culture. Okay. So then what? You know, do you have a clear goal? No, they don't. There's no end in sight. It's just endless hatred, aimless hatred, and it's very, very traumatizing to be on the receiving end of it. I got canceled last year because I spoke out on cancel culture, and I was speaking on someone, I'm not going to get into it in this video, but I was speaking on someone who was being canceled, and I thought that the way that it was being handled was very immature and unfair, and it just was my thoughts kind of pulled together in one video, and it was very disorganized and messy. I'm not proud of the video, but I'm also not embarrassed by the video because, you know, I'm more embarrassed for the way people reacted to it. I think the reaction that I got in the comments is the embarrassing part. The things people say is just so ridiculous, but if they want to make asses out of themselves, that's fine. I had to come to that conclusion on my own because initially it was very hard. You know, I had people trying to make me feel like I was a bad person. And all I did was defend someone who nobody really knows in person, you know, someone who no one has any business to be attacking in the first place because we don't know this person. So, it's, and again, even if you do, even if it's like someone who you should be like afraid of, like a political figure, for example, political figures have more power and influence, right? Political figures, it's not just about that person. It's about, you know, the things that they're going to do. You can genuinely say it's about protecting people from them. But even when you want to protect someone from someone else, you have to admit it's still possible to go too far. Let's say you have a girlfriend and she's got this abusive boyfriend that she keeps, you know, you don't know what to do. Your friend is just constantly with this abusive guy, and you want to protect her from him. How do you go about it? Would you recommend just going to his house and shooting him? You know what I mean? Like, there's an ethical and an unethical way of going about the same goal of protecting someone else. There are other ways to do it. You could get a restraining order. You could try to find a way to make it so that he can't hurt her. And if it comes down to a situation where he goes at her and you have to kill him in self-defense, then that's fine. But if you target him, if you go out of your way to kill him, then he has every right to defend himself because you've made yourself the attacker. That's the same incident with the same situation with cancel culture is that you've made yourself the attacker now. And they have a right to defend themselves. And you think, no, you deserve it. And you want them to believe they deserve it. But the reality of it is, no one deserves that. Everybody has a right to defend themselves when they're being attacked. So just watch out for when you're actually defending yourself versus when you're being the attacker. So that's just something to be aware of. Timothy did not deserve what happened to her. There's no getting around that. I will never change my mind on that. But neither did Melanie. And if it actually went to court, and there was like a defamation trial, like what happened with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, I think Melanie would have more of a case than Timothy, because Timothy kind of brought it on herself. She's the one who came out and spoke about it in the first place. Melanie never said a word about Timothy. Melanie never incited violence against Timothy. In fact, when she did mention her, she said, I'm sending her love and light always. So all she tried to do was say, you know, we parted ways. It's unfortunate that she was being dishonest in this statement, trying to ruin my reputation, but I don't judge her for it. That's her business. Just, you know, I hope you guys know that I would never do that to someone. She never said, go attack Timothy. What Timothy said was, she's a rapist. She raped me. How is that not trying to tell people to go attack her? You have to know what people are going to do. Like I said, you have to understand the implications of such a thing. And if that were looked at in a serious way, there would be no way around it. It'd be very obvious who actually did more damage to whose career. Now, you could say Melanie turned it around and is still successful, but I think that's just because Melanie genuinely has talent. You know, she actually has something that people can relate to. And that's another thing. You know, ruining her career, who does that help? There are a lot of people, even people that I know, who say that their lives have been saved by her, that her music was like comforting to them, that it made them feel less alone. Excuse me, they were able to like resonate with the messages and stuff like that, that I can just see as I've, learned and grown and evolved in the past few years. I see that in her too. She has changed a lot as a person and become more mature, and she's very I think she's got her integrity in order, which I can't say about a lot of other celebrities. She's one of the only celebrities I know who's like constantly posting about the genocide going on in Palestine. There's no reason to think of her as a dangerous or bad person, and she never said anything to make it sound like Timothy was a bad person. She barely spoke on this. She made 3 statements. She did 2 Twitter statements and then a song. And at no point did she ever say, Timothy's a horrible person, you should all go attack her. But Timothy definitely did imply that Melanie is a horrible person and deserves to be attacked. You can't call someone a rapist and pretend that that's not what you're implying. So, yeah, I think those are my thoughts on the situation. I feel bad for Timothy. I wish her luck. I actually liked her music, but I really wish that she would have just focused on her own situation and not been so adamant on like ruining her ex-friend's reputation. It's just nothing to gain from that. And all it did was make her situation even worse, which is unfortunate. But the problem there is not Melanie, it's cancel culture. Because like I said, Melanie didn't try to incite anything. She literally just was existing, and then all of a sudden she had a bunch of people coming after her, to the point where she even had to turn off comments on her old videos. So, and they're still off, I think. If you go to her videos from before 2018, no comments. So, yeah, it's not as simple as Timothy is making it sound in her new statement. So I just wanted to put this out there and share my thoughts. Thank you for watching. I really, if you want to leave hate in my comments, I don't care. I'm not going to respond to it. Have a good day.